Amazing. Thank you so much. All right. Just a very small disclaimer, right? This presentation is information only. If you've got obviously medical issues, you need to go to your physician or your trusted health professional for proper medical advice. All right. A marathon is 26.2 miles. For those who are in metric, 42.2 kilometers. And every year, 1.3 million people voluntarily sign up to feel hot, sweaty, and exhausted. But do you know who did not sign up to feel hot, sweaty, and exhausted? The billion, that's right, with a B, billion women that have entered menopause in 2025. That's right. It's like a menopause marathon. I'm a nutritionist. I'm a health coach. I've had a long career as well with executives dealing with Fortune 500 companies. And I will tell you, all I do is loving to talk about menopause and supporting women at menopause. But you know who does not like to talk about menopause? That's right, doctors. Now, not all of them, but a lot of them. Right? We know that 70% of women get totally gaslit when they go to their doctors with menopause symptom. Oh, it's nothing, don't worry about this. Because menopause education is not required in med school for your doctors. In fact, I was reading that at least 45% of GPs do not feel comfortable discussing issues of anything of midlife with women. Now, not all women will have children, but all women will have a menopause. Right? This is not a disease. This is just a natural facts of life, just like we went through puberty. So I think that it's time that we talk about it. Right? So, and it's really important because it is affecting us in the workforce big time. So one of the issues is that, if you're going to have a baby, there is so much information out there. It's nuts. Right? But when it comes to menopause, it used to be whispers, and we would talk about the change, right? There was a lot of stigma about it, especially in all cultures, but in some cultures even more, where we just don't talk about this at all. I actually had a client a few years ago who said, when I asked my mother when she went through menopause, her mother said, "Oh dear, that did not happen to me." Right? So that just highlights the fact that we have been definitely, socialized that we don't talk about this. We just, suffer through it. But I don't believe in suffering. So let's talk about some of what you could be expecting in terms of menopause. What we know is that the North American Menopause Society, they've rebranded now, but this is basically the body that, there's a lot of education around menopause. They've recognized 34 symptoms of menopause, right? And I know there are more. And here are just a little sample of what it could be, right? Often when you think about menopause, many people will think, right, hot flashes and night sweats, right? Those are kind of the cliched symptoms. But it's a lot more than that. It's a lot more than that. And now what's really important is, is somebody here at the age of 35 in the room? Do we have some people that are 35, 36, 37? Put in the chat, right? On average, in North America, yeah, right? So we've got a whole bunch of people, various different age. I love it, right? Well, on average, menopause is around 51 years old. Now, it changes depending on where you are in the world. However, perimenopause can last 7 to 10 years. And if 51 is an average, we could technically, right, look at people who at 35 are starting to have symptoms of menopause. And 80% of women will experience some symptoms, not all of 34, of course, right? There is not one size fits all approach here, but that is really important to know. Okay? So it could start as early as 35, from head to toe. And one thing I will mention is that this affects our work and it will affect our relationship. And one of the biggest things that we see are actually mental health challenges associated with perimenopause and menopause. Anxiety, depression, mood swings, a lot of irritability, right? So it is really big. And why is that? Why does estrogen have to do with mental health, for example? Right? Well, we've never been educated as women that estrogen is a lot more than a sex hormone. Yeah, ladies, this is newsflash. You have, me as well, we all have as women, these little estrogen receptors from head to toe. These little places where estrogen comes and helps. For example, in your brain, estrogen is a neuroprotector. It literally protects your brain, right? The brain cells. No wonder when perimenopause happens and then we see big swings in estrogen variations, and eventually it basically dies down with the transition to menopause. No wonder we have big mental health potential issues, brain fog, a lot of memory issues, right? Women that will say in my practice, I just don't feel myself. Very, very natural. But beyond that, this is why women will have, things like joint pain, because estrogen was actually an anti-inflammatory neuroprotective, hormone. So that's why it's so important. This is why it affects us so much. So what can we do? And I'm like running through this because we need to stay on time here. There are many things that we can do, right? We don't have to stay silent. We don't have to suffer in silence either. Because estrogen was basically this beautiful anti-inflammatory, protection on us, this hormone, we need to look at our diet to really optimize how we will go through perimenopause and menopause. The first thing is to adopt an anti-inflammatory diet, right? Most of us, right? Tell me if you are familiar, but most of us are familiar with the Mediterranean framework, right? And why is that relevant? It's because the Mediterranean framework is basically filled with a lot of plant world, right? And Judy, you do not have to give up chocolate, I promise you. There's actually really good things in the dark chocolate, right? Okay, so that's the only little nuance there. But anti-inflammatory diet is really going to be helping us keep that inflammation down, right? Also, what we love is to amp up the fiber. The fiber helps you feel full. It's also is going to help you in terms of cruciferous vegetables, for example, really helping you, right, for liver detox. As estrogen is coming out of the body, there are some byproducts. A lot of fiber is going to help because fiber is like the Swiffer of the body, right? It really helps with, cleaning up literally in the body. So very important with the fiber. It also provides you with loads of nutrients that are especially important right now, such as magnesium, for example, right? And last, in terms of food, is also proteins to the rescue. That is one of the most important thing that we need to do. We need to increase protein. And I know protein are very much in the, there's a lot of talk about eat more protein. And it's true, right? This is not just hype. This is actually really important for us. We need to up our protein because it doesn't trigger insulin as much. It's going to keep you full longer. It is going to help with weight management for anybody that is also suffering from that excess weight that comes to a lot of women at menopause. So a lot of things. Clearly, though, nutrition, is not the only factor that is going to be helping us stay healthy during that time. Movement is the other thing that is going to be so important. And I really think that it's one of our secret weapons. Most of you here might be too young to remember these crazy cardio sessions. This is Jane Fonda, who was really big in the 80s and does all these like crazy cardio, right? And when I talk about crazy cardio, I'm talking about like an hour and a half of like these big sweat fests. So I got good news for you today. Nowadays, we don't need to do this anymore, right? We don't need to kill ourselves with burning all these calories. What's much more important is to focus on strength, right? It's not about being skinny. It's really about building muscle, right? In fact, the stronger our muscles, and it doesn't mean that we have to become, built like a refrigerator here, right? This is just healthy muscles, healthy, quads, etc. It's actually going to help our metabolism because the healthier the muscle, the more we burn, but it's also a really great sign of all causes mortality. So it helps us with being more efficient with blood sugar. Anybody that is concerned about, diabetes, you want to make sure that you are strength training, right? Keeping those muscles really, really strong. Of course, it helps with many other things, but these are the key ones for us now at midlife. Really focusing on that is going to be so much better because we start to lose that muscle mass. Get this, ladies, at the rate of we lose 3 to 8% starting in our 40s, right? So every decade, 3 to 8%. But we can reverse that with strength training. And the strength training is also going to be protecting your bones, which we are very susceptible of. So what do we need to do? We need to strength train either with resistance bands. It could be weights. You could be doing boxing. There are many, many ways. But what we want to make sure is that we get that great resistance going so that both the bones and the muscles are benefiting. And of course, our metabolism is going to be really happy with that. And we're not talking about killing ourselves here, right? With hours and hours, right? So instead of the cardio, we're going to be focusing. Most of people will be, familiar with HIIT, right? HIIT trainings, high interval intense training. Now, the good news is that what will be more effective for us is short, intense training, right? 30 minutes, right? Interval type training, right? So it needs to be interval. The cardiovascular capacity needs to go way high, but this is going to be the difference. Start with twice a week and then incorporate strength training, 2 sessions, about 30 minutes as well. But, if you haven't done anything, right? And no shaming here, we're all at where we are. Just start with 10 minutes, start with 15 minutes, right? And then work from there. What's more important is to move because this is also going to help us with the mental health aspect. This is going to help with our, the focus on having a better brain, especially because we are so susceptible to that brain fog. We're so susceptible to depression and anxiety. We know that movement is key for that. So really, really important, right? To start, just start anywhere. That's the biggest thing. And in the time that we have, the third element that I wanted to bring to this whole menopause thing, diet, movement, and the third is rest and rejuvenation, which becomes our new best friend. Truly, it really, really is. Prioritizing sleep, we talk about it, but so many of us are struggling with that. You can maybe take a little screen grab of these, but these are well-known sleep support options that women can try. And I will tell you here, what's really important is not sleep has the same root cause for everyone. So you may have to try something that, that will work for you, that may be different than somebody else. But you may want to just try. And of course, there's some disclaimers here because not everybody will, work with everything. And, the last thing around this rest and rejuvenation is creating that self-care can also come from creating creative hobbies, right? Tell me in the chat, do you have any hobbies that you do, right? I have clients who knit. I very much admire that because I have none. Anything that is creative, right? Music or drawing or painting, right? Our previous guests about like such incredible artistic abilities, right? Like that is going to be so, so important. Gardening, I love that. I'm a plant killer. So I admire what you're doing, Angie. The other thing is breath work or meditation for everybody that is really struggling with a bit of anxiety or depression. Science shows that it's both meditation combined with exercise, those two together, that actually has the greatest return in terms of efficacy. And then last, nature. I cannot tell you how healing it is. We now know that spending 15 to 20 minutes in nature, and it can just be at a local park, something like that, lowers the stress hormone cortisol, lowers our blood pressure. It can even lower the heart rate. It truly is healing. So make that as well a beautiful, beautiful priority, right? And I love here what Dr. Misha is sharing. Absolutely, right? Staying away from the big stimulus, the alcohol. Obviously, unfortunately, this is what we need to do to be really healthy. Because menopause is a very significant time, and I want you to take this number in. 33. That's the average number of years that women have after natural menopause. 33. That's about 40% of our life. It's 33% of our life that we don't need to suffer, right? We don't have to suffer in silence. We don't have to do this alone, right? That we can actually really optimize our health so that it becomes the best time of our life. So if anybody is interested in understanding how they can really optimize for them, book a call with me. I will put the link in the chat as well for a complimentary menopause relief call. And I'll show you some strategies that will fit with your life so that you can no suffering, answering any questions you may have, because menopause is one of the most liberating time of your life.